It's like this. I dress up how I want. I do what I want. Because nobody's going to tell me that I'm not free to make decisions as a man in this world. Nobody's going to tell me what fucking words I can't say, or what words I should say, or how I should say them. Okay? Now you look and you see. Okay? Now I'm an easy motherfucker to hate. Just off the bat. Just off the bat. I'm easy to hate. Just straight off the fucking bat. But from my perspective, I don't have to say anything. I just have to sit there. And 9 times out of 10, if someone comes up and strikes up a conversation with me, we're going to be friends for life. And that's the point. That's the point of the gold. That's the point. That's the point of the Louis. That's the point of the not bedazzled hat. It's fucking gold. Now, they don't know this shit. You know? People look over, especially fucking... I don't know what to call them, except for like stooges or something like that, because that's what they are to me. They're stooges. And a stooge is like... just like a reactionary fucking instinct-driven automaton that has no freedom of like personal will. As a matter of fact, any exhibition of freedom that they observe in their small minds, it makes them angry. You know, they don't like it. But the reason that they don't like it is because they are fundamentally flawed for whatever reason. Now, I believe in reasons, but I don't believe in excuses. The reason that I'm the way that I am is because of the fucking abuse, okay, that I received in my life. Now, blame, sure. But blame, I'm not looking for any kind of like, you know, inanimate object or random fucking person to fuck with, or, you know, esoteric, you know, demiurge or something to lay my blame upon. I know exactly who the fuck I blame for the things that were done to me in my life. Okay? So my reason for going this far with shit and looking like I do and dressing like I do, like, I know that on some levels it's so fucking awful that it's awesome, right? Like Diane Ward. And on other levels it's goddamn fucking ridiculous and stupid. And people who instantly judge somebody like this, first of all, they don't see like a person who actually fucking left the house looking like this, like out in public and stuff, and they don't say to themselves, who's that? And then try to get to know somebody. They're either going to, or they're fucking gonna hate you. That's it. There's no in between, motherfuckers. You know, they either don't know who the fuck you are and haven't seen you, okay? Because if they have, then they're either fucking balling and you're fucking cool and they're friends and family and shit like that, and you got love for each other, or they fucking hate you. Period. No amount of any the fuck thing that you can ever possibly fucking do is ever going to appease a hater. So don't even fucking try. Okay? Now, the psychology of a hater is fucking simple. They love you. They're envious. They're fucking jealous. They're so infatuated with you. Okay? They want to suck your dick or eat your pussy or whatever the fuck it is you got. That's what but to them in their mind, they have like the master controller that's over them of this like I don't know what the fuck it is. It's not human, whatever it is. Human exhibits characteristics that are of human, specific to human. Animals exhibit rage. Animals exhibit predatory behavior. They exhibit aggression and things like that. They don't laugh. They don't find it funny. And animals also can take the form of a human being. Okay? Human is defined by love, empathy, sympathy, charity, service to others, altruism, integrity is a very important one. Non-duality or unification of whatever it is that we call the self, and unity is one. The self cooperating together, and I say together because the self is going to be my voice, the vocal cords, my taste buds, and then you got your nose, the olfactory nerves, the ears, the cochlea, the drum, the eyes, the sense of touch, and then in a lot of ways you have a sixth sense in that you can feel when other people are down or when other people are ecstatic and things like that. Haters do not have a self within them. They're self-loathing if they do. And what that means is whatever it is that's ascended to the throne over controlling their, whatever body or however you want to look at it, their vessel, their human. It's not human in the sense that the human in them, doesn't take charge, and it doesn't control. It allows the maniac animal, I should say, it allows the animal to run the show. Okay, the ego, if you will. To use, I guess, a common popular term. Once the ego is in charge, okay, the ego, its only purpose, okay, is to enable itself, to keep the switch on and to enable itself in that seat of master controller, where the human's been essentially kicked out of the seat of master controller. Well, the human in them, okay, is self-loathing. You say self-loathing. But the ego learns very early on that in order to get any kind of control or what it wants, via bargaining, it learns very, very early on, very quickly, that abuse is the best way to get what it wants. Self-abuse, self-debasement, self-deprecation, low self-esteem, and so on and so forth. People with low self-esteem are not necessarily maniacs, not yet. But there's a certain level of debasement that goes on within the individual that has low self-esteem that can lead to the enabling of the ego. Now, personally, haters are fully fucking enabled, okay? And unfortunately, we live in a society that almost through propaganda is almost able to literally reach inside someone's mind unseat the human and then put the ego in charge so that it can buy, consume, and you know, it can go for all the whirling dervishes and the flashing lights. The human, once it's out of its seat and in the position underneath the ego, okay, the human then becomes, it takes on the role of protecting the ego. It's got to protect the ego, because the ego only wants to enable itself. The human at this point has been debased enough by the ego within them that they're afraid to rise up at all. They don't realize that it's a lot like the Wizard of Oz. You know, it sees this big illusion, because when in our own mind, you know, the ego is able to, you know, pretend, to put forth illusions and stuff, you know, to take on roles and different things. An individual who is ego free, or has freed themselves from their ego or of their ego, or doesn't have the quality of being dual in nature with this internal struggle, is whoever he wants to be. Now, a loud and clear and kind of almost instantly recognizable, I guess you could say, theme here, I should say. Well, if I go out and I'm sitting in my home, so I have no worries about, you know, things. Don't worry. Singularity within the self, unification within the self, you don't have worries. You might have some concerns or something like that about whether or not you're going to make the shit on time, or however that works. But you're not going to have worries. You're not going to sit around and worry about shit, because there's no fucking time for it. And worrying about shit requires like a second party to be like, you know, telling you that you need to be worried about this or whatever. So, oh my gosh, you know. Well, when I leave the house, all of a sudden the paradigm changes, because I'm around other people in the environment. Other people, to my point of view and the way that I look at things, other people are deadly fucking poisonous, disease-ridden filth who are going to eat your fucking face off everywhere you look. They're goddamn poison. Period. Because it's been my experience in life that most people do not have true friends. They have people that they're social with, or they have people that they use, so to speak, because, you know, it's mutually beneficial or whatever. And then they have parasites who pretend and so on. But they're all fucking poisonous. They're all the same. They're all snakes. And they all want to fuck you over. They all want to just beat the shit out of you until you're down, your face down in the fucking mud. And they want to stomp your fucking head and stomp your teeth out, and they rape you and kill you. And you know, if you're lucky, kill you. They want what they want to do is they want to keep you around so they can fucking torture you, you know, because they are animals. Now, I'm not a preacher, man. All right, I know when I walk out and public, people are gonna look at me, and I'm gonna get, you know, I'm gonna go, oh no, you know, they're looking at me. I wonder if I look all right, you know. So that's not singularity. And you start hearing that kind of shit or feeling those types of emotions call upon you or whatever, that's what you need to get. That's what you need to get a grip on. You know, you dress up something like this and walk out, and you'll hear it loud and clear. Are you stupid? Why are you walking out? When you hear that shit in your inner monologue, understand and realize that is not you. It is the ego, or whatever this thing is that wants for the seat that you have, as you have control of yourself. There's another like person or being or spirit or whatever you want to call it that's in there that is doing everything in its power to either debase you by calling your attention, like you're in front of a mirror and it's, oh my gosh, I got a zit, I got a pimple over my face, that kind of shit, okay? or it's serving you in some way, whatever. But any fucking thing that it does is for the sole purpose of usurping your ass and getting what it wants. Right? Well, there is they say, at least I say, which I mean university scientists, university professors, doctors, and people that are into psychology, that have access to peer-reviewed journals and things like that, who publish things. The combined them as a group overall, because I don't feel like getting into an argument about the eponymy of discovery and so on and so forth. But they, have discovered that we, and they are us, are in the middle of among the worst epidemics mankind has ever known, and not known at the same time, ironically, and that's narcissism. We're in the middle of an epidemic of narcissism. Now, what does that mean? Do we put up the signs and start firing up the ovens? No. What that means is that there is an unbelievable number of people, an excessive number of people, an egregious number of humans who simply don't have any concern whatsoever for others. Fine. People that live like that, and fucking let them live like that. You don't have to be friends with them or not. But just try to take the term narcissist with a grain of salt, because we all have narcissism. We all have a certain degree. It's called vanity, things like that. You have to have a certain degree of it to even have a fucking hairdo, You have to have a certain degree of it to be into fashion or style and things like that. It doesn't make you a narcissist, and I really think they ought to change this term, but to narcopath. Narcopathy. I like that better. Now, one thing to know about the narcopath, and the narcopath, to me, and the way that I look at it, is the enabled fucking hater. They're enabled, fully enabled. The human in them is gone and has no control over anything. The human's gone. They're completely malignant, all of them. There's no such thing as covert, overt, or history, any of that bullshit. They're all malignant, covert narcopaths. Okay? One thing about these fucking weirdos is that if you took a psychopath and a sociopath and a narcopath, and you put them in an environment or a situation where, say like they're at the bank or something, and you put them in a situation where, there's a pin, a little writing pin laying out or whatever, and, set them up to kind of steal it. So let's say that now we have them all busted and they're all sitting there and we're asking them, did they take the pin, Well, the psychopath and the sociopath are going to admit to taking the pin when you ask them, if they know they're not going to get in any trouble for it. The narcopath will never admit it, ever, because it's a fucking disorder spanning across many of the clusters in the manual there. But it's important to understand and realize first and foremost that they're the most dangerous fucking people that are walking the earth today. And we're in the middle of an epidemic of it. So, how to identify them? There's a very easy way. One, the narcopath, if you told the narcopath and you said, okay, You showed them the video of them taking the thing, the pen, right, with their face. You provide 6,000 billion witnesses, okay? A judge, a jury, everything, all the news, every camera, all of it's on there. Did you do it? And they'll go, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about, you know, or whatever. And if you offered them immunity, diplomatic immunity, give them free reign to kill whoever they want and do whatever the fuck they want forever and ever and ever, they still would not admit it. A narcissist goes malignant whenever they're unable to critically evaluate their own actions. However, they are not only entitled, but they're the only person on earth that can criticize other people's actions, but they themselves can't be criticized. They cannot be criticized. It causes a fundamental freaking logic short, you know, in their tiny little fucking pea brains. It's just a bloop, it just fries. And then from there, they don't know what to do except retaliate, kill, and all that bullshit. Well, I'm here to tell you, they are seeking torture. That's what they're after, and they know how to do that shit. They've been doing it their whole lives and keep it behind closed doors. don't get lulled into a false sense of believing that a narcopathic motherfucker has the capability with their brain matter to change. That's what they rely on when it comes to fucking with people, getting their supply. They have to be in a state of abusing someone else. Narcissism it's going to be a word that's going to be thrown around and used by narcissists, believe it or not, to abuse others, as it already is now. It's an epidemic. Number one, it's important to remember. The test for narcissism is somewhat simple. You just ask this question. You ask somebody on a scale of 0 to 7. You lead them into it, of course. You talk about narcissism. They're going to talk about it. You say, "Oh, I read somewhere that there was this question or whatever. This one question that you could ask that would test whether somebody was a narcissist." Naturally, they're going to bite, because when you frame it in the sense of somebody like, well, you can test someone or whatever, someone is always going to be them. So you can, if it applies to them, or it will lead to any type of conversation or any type of dialogue that's going to be like directed toward them, and they're going to fucking go for it every time. On a scale of 0 to 7. Okay, 0 being not true at all, 7 being most true, or like the most, 0 to 7. When you ask the question yourself, when you make the statement, how do you rate the statement when made to yourself? How true is the statement, "I am a narcissist"? When you ask that of yourself on a scale of 0 to 7, a narcissist can't answer it. It's the fucking weirdest thing. They'll juggle it around. They'll fucking eat all kinds of shit or whatever, but they can't fucking answer it. And I find, to me, it's fascinating. But at the same time, it's like, to me, it's fascinating. At the same time, it's just fucking weird. You could have 10,000 narcopaths in a line, the guillotine at the end of it, at the front of it, and heads chopped off, and are rolling down a hill back, and they'll be watching the heads roll off, asking that fucking question. They could have a dude in the process walk up to him and say, "Hey, just say a number. All you gotta do is say a number. That's it." And they will not do it. It's a disorder. There are other ways. There's a form of what they're calling non-dualism, or the love yourself movement, and all this stuff. Wrong. The love, okay, what the person will say is some cliche, or some bumper sticker. And they'll say, well, you got to love yourself. You got to learn how to love yourself. You can't love others, without loving yourself. And partially true is that statement. You can't love others while you love your fucking self. If you're busy loving yourself, you can't love others, because you're in here. You're not in here. In here being the proverbial narcissistic us, which would be I. The love, and you will tell them, well, the love of oneself is the definition of narcissism. It is the verbatim definition of vanity, narcissism. And then the person say, well, I was just saying that, or they'll be honest. Chances are they're not going to fucking say something so goddamn stupid and shallow anyway. if they're not already. And they'll go, they'll say, well, and it's always the same, because for some reason or another, they're all the same person. And they'll go, well, I didn't mean it like that, like I'm not really in love with myself, shit like that. And then every time, the same conversation with multiple different people about this shit, and I'll say, yeah, because we'll bend the definitions and the rules of things or whatever to suit you, to not make you look like you said something, Because for some reason or another, they give so much of a fuck, Because in their minds or whatever, I guess they believe that the whole fucking world, gives a shit, And I mean, I talk into a camera because I find it therapeutic for myself. I put it on YouTube because I can watch it on my phone. And people all the time, they say, you're a narcissist. Well, what? You know what I mean? Am I abusing you? Am I being abusive or whatever? I mean, personally, I've studied psychology. One's own mind is the only thing sure to exist. Well, that's a statement of truth, and you don't need anything else other than that to tell you that this shit's all in our collective head. Any type of perception that occurs is occurring through the lens of human perception, us. We don't see through the lens of anything else. And the truth of the matter is, if there were aliens floating around in the brain space inside there, they're not going to perceive us. Just like the bee doesn't see our pictures, or the bird doesn't respect our statues, or a squirrel crawling on the ground finds a camera or something and says, "Oh, these are nice vacation photos." They don't. It's not something that registers in the mind of other perceptive beings. They have different perceptive awareness and stuff. And it's really quite amazing, that the general layout, the structure, the four walls of the world is the same, but there's vastly different, perceptive points of view, as we call it, subjectivity now. Objectivity is not subjective. It's not subjective at all. It is not fucking subjective, okay? It doesn't deal in that, right? Well, this is why if I stand on a scale and I think about 300 pounds, or I imagine a dump truck, the scale doesn't increase by anything. Telekinesis hasn't been proven. It might be possible, but it will require some type of prosthetic, to accomplish technology. And because when you're standing on a scale and you think about 300 pounds, nothing changes, it's kind of a simple example for a complex problem. You just have to take my word on being true. The subjectivity is not substantive. Your thoughts and your being and your perception, your subjective unity of the combined senses of your body giving you the impression that there is a self called you, it's nothing. It can't be experimentally verified. In other words, I can't say, show me a memory from when your childhood. Let's put it under a microscope and take a look at it. And that's never going to be something. It's simply subjectivity cannot go into objective. Can't. It stands to reason, okay, that because personally solipsism is simple out, okay. The hard solipsism, at least, in that I believe that, so the only thing sure to exist in the mind, so it's all in my head, and you're all just fixed by imagination. That's bullshit. Because I can't, whatever metric I use, or whatever scale of measurement I use to determine that you aren't real, because I can't physically measure yours. Honestly, I'd have to be able to apply the same measure to myself, and I'd come up short, and the only thing I have is this feeling that there is a self there. And if there is no subjectivity within objectivity, then there is no point of view of observation within objectivity, because it's not subjective. Therefore, the objectivity that we think we see is not real. It's a construct of a subjective mind. It's very real. It'll clean your clock, you know what I mean? But, much like in a dream, if you fall, you feel it. If you're a lucid dreamer, if you burn, it's hot. If you drink the water, it tastes good. In some cases, even refreshing. So, but when you're having dreams, nobody's standing over you with a flashlight and a virtual reality punch suit and hitting you. That's not how it works. You're literally turning off the senses. You're going into a deep meditation. You experience another world and another world and another world. So, where we are is in our mind. Because no perception occurs outside of the mind. Outside of the mind, there is no perception. Nothing is perceived outside of the mind. Nothing. Nothing. Well, I look among the vista, see the cloud. It could be many things, but was it really shaped like? Nothing. There's no shape. No thing is shaped like no thing. It has no shape. There's no symmetry anywhere. It's like oblivion. To like to tell you or to understand is to know that it's infinite. And that means at any given moment you stand on the precipice of the convergence of an infinitely many times having done this with infinitely many variants. Okay? What happens in subjectivity, it becomes concrete at that precipice. That everything that you encounter within your environment that you perceive, the tree, the brick, the stone, the metal, the car, everything, it's all comprised ultimately, and it gets its density and it gets its weight and it gets its substance from having suffered trauma of birth. And everything that happens subsequently and infinitely many times, like a giant infinity mirror, that at the point of convergence, what is perceived is something you can touch and feel. Just like the ego is vying for the seat of self, so then is the same thing in the consciousness of the whole of the human universe that we live in. And there is a seat, there. However, trauma bonded to it. I guess we're a bunch of little egos running around, like they say, right? Well, ascension is not something that is always desired. Because sometimes a motherfucker wants to have a choice to be a dirtbag, and sometimes somebody wants to fucking screw just to have some fun, do some dope, get fucked up, stuff like that, that's what sometimes I do. I personally believe in Christ. And I wouldn't believe in Christ had I not actually met the motherfucker, which was, it was an amazing experience. It was sublime. Love just exuded from this individual. And I believe that it's possible that any man or woman can achieve Christ's level of understanding existence. But in order to be love, in order to embody love, in order to achieve the highest level of love, a great deal of suffering is required. How bad do you want it? You shouldn't be forced into anything. Everybody has a choice. Any mind, okay, that's been on this issue throughout the ages, and there are lots of us, we all realize the same thing. One, it's an exercise in futility, because ultimately, it's not that we don't know. We know. But I believe that it's very, very, very difficult for the mind to fully accept an infinite recurrent psychological flight, or whatever you want to call it. Philosophy helps us kind of give us a little bit of a cushion, back there, but it's a hole either way. It's a bottomless pit. However, the spiritual world is a real place, and we've been robbed of that here through propaganda, through commercialization, through all manner of shit that's been used to assault us, to assault our children, so that corrupt people who are our people, that we're us, we're all us. There's no us and them, there's just us. It's all through corruption. They do these things. They, in the case of the propaganda machine and the materialism and all that stuff, they, in that case, by Citizens United, are corporations themselves as a whole, as an entity, okay, of consciousness, like pyramid, bottom workers all the way up to the CEOs, the top, okay, and the eye of that pyramid, the all-seeing eye of that pyramid is they, is them, okay, that's what they want, okay, because they and them are essentially memes that are created with the synergy that exists within the corporate structure. Corporation is the pyramid base. The realization of the corporation as a branded product, as the idol of it, is the all-seeing eye. But it's all people, you see. It's all people, and so when looked at it in that context, Citizens United and so on. Well, the corporations have a tendency to be very narcissistic as citizens, dangerous as well. People die on their watch, cutthroat. They'll lay off 150,000 of their fucking people, like chopping off their leg or whatever. There's a whole thing going on that is occurring in an echelon of our consciousness. We create consciousness of consciousness, so on and so forth, that we don't have access to. We generally don't have access to. What's bizarre is the fact that researchers, neurologists, researchers, neurobiologists, neurosurgeons, and I believe doctors at Johns Hopkins have discovered that the brain is operating in some 11 dimensions. And the reason that they know this is that they've observed polytopes that are shadows of those dimensional geometries up there. See? Forming within the brain whenever thoughts are occurring and stuff like that. So, 11 dimensions of consciousness is very fascinating to me. Because perhaps, at the corporate paradigm level, but that's a dimension we see. Also wonder about taste, if that's a dimension and so on, things like that. What do I do? My ultimate fundamental bottom level advice is simple. Do not get bogged down in abusing yourself or allowing a voice or a feeling or whatever the fuck it is that you have, allowing that to have any fucking voice at all if it's going to be bullshit. Now, aligning yourself, that's one thing, do that. Align yourself, but don't let that motherfucker in your head talk shit. You don't need to be sitting in your room or at your house listening to that shit in your mind. You don't need to be sitting there going, "You're fucking sucking, oh God, I'm fucking all that." You don't do it. Just fight with it. You say, "Fuck you, motherfucker." Because envision that person sitting there just torturing you like that and debasing you like that and everything else. And then, maybe you'll see the thing about it. And the thing about it is simple. Okay? Anytime you hear negative bullshit that's so focused on the inward shit, just fucking reject it. Okay? And a tool for rejecting it is first and foremost identifying it. Or the negativity, when you hear the negativity in your mind, or however you feel the negativity, or however you get that negativity, understand and know that at that moment you need to separate that negativity from yourself, observing it, and give it a name and separate it and say, okay, this is not me, I'm naming it. So that once that happens, you can establish a center baseline of self. Okay, positive accomplishments, positive, goals, current, pursuits, and general things that you've done that are commendable by societal standards, in a lot of ways. Because it's hard for us to make a judgment call about the quality of our character without other people, you know what I'm saying? And so when you do that, you commit. For me personally, I would fall back on education, good family, intelligence, let's see, military service, excellent chef. And I know these things because many people have commended me on these efforts or whatever. And I don't sit around bragging about this or that or whatever. But what you need to do is you need to remember those things that you've done and those things that you've accomplished in life and those things that you've done that you're proud of, okay? So that whenever that voice comes in there and steps in there and starts talking all that shit, you can say, no, motherfucker. Because I did this and this and this. And and whatever you are, whoever you are, and I can sit there and take those accomplishments the fuck away from me, And that's ultimately whenever you gain control over the thing. It gives me a great deal of conflict. I guess we don't all come to the fray at the same time, so to speak. But I have a great deal of conflict after meeting Christ and encountering people who instantly turn off whenever you mention something like that. They either instantly turn off or they're prepared to just abuse you and make fun of you or clown you for whatever reason. Okay, and now here's why. I'm going to get into this for a second. Somebody who lives their life not believing in God and things like that and thinking that it's bullshit and it's a fucking lie and everything else. One, Every atheist I've ever met is angry. They have an anger management issue. They're pissed off, you know what I mean? What they're pissed off about, they're not fucking being propped up as being God. That's what it boils down to. Because what I've learned is that if somebody has a fucking problem yielding the self to a higher power, then they don't have a self to yield, and they're fucking narcissists, like I was talking about earlier. Narcopath, malignant covert, or whatever you want to call them, okay? The reason that they're fucking covert is because they don't have a self, all right? But they still have some type of an awareness, but it's not human awareness. That's the thing. Now, not having human awareness, it's a little bit bizarre to me because they still have awareness, right? Well, the self is done, right? Self, remember, is empathy, sympathy, and things like that. Well, once this animal gets in there, the ego, or whatever you want to call it, gets control, the human's never going to get a bit again at the thing. Because now what's in its place has no sympathy, it has no empathy, it doesn't give a shit about the pleas or what, it just fucking get by and it's gone, you know. Well, once the self is gone within this enabled monster, I call them demons, you know, whatever. But once that thing is gone, because it abuses self, because it destroys the self, because it's self-destructive, when it has no self within itself there, it goes after other selves. That's why the victimization, because it has to seek the self, it has to seek and destroy the self. Now, I'll talk about this. The suicide narcissist is fucking one, in an effort to destroy the self within you, will actually literally kill themselves in front of their victim to solidify the abuse. It's the worst. Well, next to kidnapping, you know. Now, and a lot of people wouldn't put this in the category as freaking narcissism, but kidnapping is the same. Because the individual that takes the child is not interested in the child. They take the child. They could care less about the fucking kid or anything. They take the child because it gives them power, the worst kind of fucking power anybody could ever. It gives them power over the parents for the rest of their fucking life. Now, I can imagine the kind of suffering. I have empathy for this that a parent goes through when something like this happens. And it goes on for days and days and hours and hours and hours and minutes and seconds and months and months and months and years and years and years. And it gets to the point where this person has done so much damage that the parents of the child would be happy just to know if the child was living or dead. You know. And in most of the cases, the children are dead, and the fucking monster that's up there doesn't even, just kind of a last blow, you know, to the family who's bereft is that the monster doesn't even remember the kid. I don't fucking know. And they do. They do. And they do that to hurt others intentionally, specifically, wantonly, on purpose. So, how do you differentiate these motherfuckers? It's simple. You don't let experience in life don't ever let, and this is what Christ told me as I walked with him in his love. Don't let this experience of life affect your ability to trust other people. Keep trusting people and keep giving them your trust. And you'll learn, you know, how to know. And the more you give people trust and the more you show people love, the more you'll learn love within yourself, you know. And I'm not talking about loving yourself. You'll learn about it and understand that it's possible to give unconditionally love, to unconditionally give love to others. And it's a fantastic experience. However, it's very painful, and you find yourself almost on a tightrope of pain and bliss in a strange way to manage it, you know? Because there's a great deal of suffering that's going on in the world. The majority of suffering that's going on in the world are victims of narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse, if not physical, which is rare, is always the same. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, or you're in a relationship with somebody who can be enabled by a narcissist, you know, like a piece of shit dad or mom, you know, then that person or their handlers are going to initiate the discard phase, and they're going to leave you in total and complete silence. And they do it on purpose. If they haven't done it to you yet, you know what I'm talking about, because they've done it to you fucking bunch of times before in the past, but they just go off and disappear and leave you out the fucking loop, one big happy family. It's always the same shit with these fucking losers. And if this is your situation and you're still with this person, get the fuck away from them. Distance yourself from their handlers. Get to start to back off. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do. And generally, people don't come to this level of fold until it's happened to them, and then they know what it's like. They know the hell. But the thing is, the narcissist motherfucker is not thinking about you. They're not. That's what you got to realize in your head, is that this person, because you weren't being such a fun toy for them anymore, and you started criticizing their handlers, and you started to get onto their shit, and you started to get tired of their shit, all right? They don't give a fuck about you. What they give a fuck about is protecting themselves from criticism. And if you fucking criticize them, they will ruin your life. They'll make your life, which is pointless. Because really, if they set out to ruin your fucking life, then they're giving you all this attention. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make any sense to me, you know. Narcissist didn't give anybody else any fucking attention, except himself. And you know, there's a parasite out there, there's a virus out there, there's some type of something out there. There's a fucking war going on, folks. That war was predicted, you know. The rise of this concern for reptilians taking over the world, all this shit or whatever. Well, look, it exists within our perception, and therefore it is part of the us that is without. The true way in. I mean, when you look out among the world and out there and stuff, that's all in your head. We're all sharing in the vision of whatever it is that we're thinking. Ultimately, all of us. It's like the average of what's going on in the mind. So the reptilian conspiracy, it grows.
And, you know, if you follow the triune brain model, you'll know that the limbic system is attached to the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is usually generally recognized as being cold-blooded, snake, no empathy, lacking in sympathy, you know what I mean? No love, no remorse, shit like that. And look what's going on in our culture. We have an epidemic of narcissism, which is exactly embodied in reptile brains. It's a symbolic of what's going on culturally. And that's what you got to look at, you know, aliens and stuff. I know people believe in stuff. And hey, look, what you got to understand is that, yes, aliens exist because they exist within the mind of the human being. And this is our fucking universe. The global collective I. There it is. There's nothing that's objective out there. You need to figure out what you can do with that knowledge. And the first step, okay, is getting out of yourself a little bit. If you're suffering in that place, my advice to you is, because I know that you're trying to tread water. And every time you swim up there, and you're like, and then you just get pushed back under the water every time you fucking go up for air. What I did was go down. As above, so below. That's where it's at. You have to dive in. You have to go down. You're not going to go up. You've tried it. You've been trying it. Go down. Fall down. Ooh, go down. And, you know, then you'll get there. Yeah. Jump in, yeah. Also, make recordings. If you feel like talking about your experience and everything and saying everything you talk about, then do that. Because I know what it's like to not have anybody there because, you know, the smear campaign and all the bullshit or whatever. I know. But I'm in the phase where it's failed. And, you know, what I'm left with is again, just this kind of general disgust. You know, but I wouldn't throw up on them, you know, because they're not even good enough to have my puke on them. You know, I wouldn't piss on their heads if their fucking hair was on fire. So, I mean, I wouldn't waste my spit on their fucking faces. That's how worthless they are. Because you could spit in their face, you could piss on them, do whatever, but it's not going to matter. There's no self in there that you're not providing for them. And it's a scary, weird fucking place, but you be goddamn grateful that you have a self, because guess what? This test of life is not about them, because they don't have a self. They don't have a soul. This test of life is about your performance, motherfucker. You know? Because you're me, I'm you. Perform, you know, and get out of that rut. I mean, the reason that I do these videos is so I can play back to myself whenever I fall into the rut, and you know, talk about your experience. I was gonna say, but listen, anytime you can, talk about positive things. And listen to it over and over again. Your neurons will change, the pathways will change, new synapses, and your fucking way of thinking will completely change. You know, avoid delusional thinking at all costs. You know, avoid committing to any answers or whatever, because ultimately what you're going to have to find is comfort in not knowing. And I found that, you know, because the world is wide the fuck open in not knowing, and it can be whatever I want it to be, you know. And that's why they hate you so much. They don't have love. All they have is hate. They believe that they have love, but the only love they believe that they have is the love that they feel for the victimization and the pain they've caused others. That gives them a joyous feeling, you know, of love. True love, when that hits them, they feel pain, they get aggression, they get pissed off. They're demons. They're nothing. They're also cowards too, by the way. Demon, they ain't gonna show their face. They'll usurp you through others and shit like that. And that's how it works. Nothing is perceived outside of the mind. Nothing is perceived. There is nothing outside the mind. Nothing is perceived outside the mind. There is nothing outside the mind. Nothing. There is nothing outside the mind. Nothing is there outside the mind. We are all in our head. You know? And I think it's beautiful, actually. Before the Big Bang, was it? Wave interference pattern, information field, consciousness. It don't require space. Actual, it requires nothing. It's the only thing. It's weird. Interesting. I do me. And that's how it is. And what I found, you make yourself judgeable. And if somebody's judgmental and they're gonna fucking judge, then they're done off the bat whenever you look like this. And then, kicking, talking to the voice, you know what I mean? Just give them a little something to think about. Because what do it matter? I try to tell people that shit all the time. It's what matter is the motherfucking message. Is the message about love? Is the message about teaching motherfuckers how to recognize hate? Is the message about positivity? Is the message about educating motherfuckers about these asshole hater motherfuckers out here? Because the message come in many different fucking forms, and let me tell you something. Black people, Mexican people, China people, Canadian people, white people, people from Africa, UK, Australia, all over the motherfucking globe carry within them your soul. Get to know yourself through us. Get to know yourself better through us. Understand who you are better through us, which is you. I understand myself better through you, which is me. We are human together, all of us. We seek out and we destroy the source of fucking malignance. Because malignant leads to slavery, it leads to dystopia, it leads to greed, it leads to envy and lust and gluttony. And think about it. All those, the 7 deadly sins are all selfish. Because when you in service to yourself, other people experience pain and suffering. They experience pain. They suffer needlessly over something stupid like greed. How much is enough? What difference does it fucking make? Are your bills paid? If they're not, more than likely it's because of greedy motherfucker. We change the world. I mean, hell. You don't sit there and say, no, people are fucked up and we can't change the world because well, we can't change the world because one motherfucker's attitude say we can't do it and then it don't work. You have everybody in the world on board and then that one motherfucker, well, utopia's not possible. And then thanks, motherfucker, you just ruined it for everybody. But we still love you anyway. Find that. You want to learn about unconditional love? Go do some charity work with homeless. Give to them whatever they ask for. Your whole fucking wallet. Try that. And that's a lesson right there. Sure is. That's a lesson right there. Me personally, I'm about to be homeless myself.